Welcome everybody. Day one of boot camp 2025.
Woohoo!
What better way? What better way to spend your summer or afternoon or morning for you West Coasters, Midwesters, Mountain Rangers, right? And we got a couple time zones represented here, but welcome, welcome. We'll give everybody a couple minutes. We'll do some pretty quick intros and then ultimately get to the task at hand here. First, if you're new to us, it's always, or even if you're not, it's always fun for us to see, where are you in the country or where are you in the world? And then what's a graduating class of your student? I think, primarily we got 2026s here, but tell us, where you are in this journey. And again, where you are in the, again, what state or what, country you're in. Cause we always see that we're very well represented geographically. That's something that's always fun for us. Um, yeah, and so we'll do some quick introductions here, and then again talk some housekeeping stuff. Sometimes we'll have you put stuff in the Q&A, but sorry, sometimes we'll have you put stuff in the chat like you guys are doing so nicely here. But for your questions, we want you to put them in the Q&A. That's where whichever one of us are not talking, we're going to be focusing there. Gives us some order of operation. So we welcome your questions. We want your questions. Anything that's keeping you up at night around this process, throw it in there, right? And between the three of us, I think we'll be able to help you guys. And that's I think a big get for this week. So, my name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College Pro. I'm at our office here just north of Boston in Salem, Massachusetts. We got Peggy out there in Arizona. We got Kevin Murph just to my south, DTS down the shore in Jersey. And Peggy, by the way, originally a Jersey girl. So
Jealous. I'm jealous.
we got some Jersey roots here, certainly. So, our job this week is to help you just tackle both sides of this really challenging process, right? How to pay for this thing, how financial aid and scholarships work. And then tomorrow, we're going to bring in our admissions expert to walk you through and your student through, the admissions side. But it's all about just again getting you educated, getting rid of the fear of the unknown because I know most people, right? If you have a pulse, are pretty freaking overwhelmed and nervous and anxious and oh my God, it's all this money and are my kids gonna get find their right fit? Trying to bring your shoulders down a little bit. That's our job here, and then we'll help you figure out if you don't know already. Am I somebody that's just a DIYer that can tackle this process on their own with kind of the help of College Aid Pro's resources for us DIYers, or am I somebody that wants to tag in an expert to work with my family one on one, and what does that look like? So we'll help you sort through that this week too. But no matter what, I feel confident that if you can stay engaged with us these next 2 days, you're going to leave here. You're going to leave here with a lot more confidence and just understand where you are on that. Am I a DIY or do I want a little bit more help here? And then, of course, tomorrow we got the scholarship giveaway that we'll do live at the end tomorrow. So, yeah, so that's it. I mean, let me talk about these guys quickly. That was enough about myself. But Murph has been doing this for over a decade. He's worked with thousands and thousands of families. Just been on the front line of this process. Last year alone, he himself for the families that he worked with, did over $1 million in successful appeals. So we'll talk about appeals at the end of the presentation today. But basically, that means once a college gives you a financial offer, how do we go back and get a better deal? And that he has a lot of skill sets, but that's, in my opinion, one of his most kind of eye-popping statistics there. So we're lucky to have him. One of the I think top experts in this world. And then Peggy Keogh, the fairy godmother of financial aid herself, otherwise known as the budget queen, otherwise known as a mother of two that have been through this process. So Peggy, if you want to say hi, and then we'll get cooking.
Yeah. Kudos to everybody for being here. And as Matt said, really important. Come both days. Just what we're gonna have the big giveaway the end of tomorrow. And then it'll be the complete package because we're gonna have one of our other experts, Joe K, as we call him tomorrow, getting in the weeds on the admissions piece. So just and we've already had questions. Both days will be recorded so you can because we're going to cover a lot and it might be a bit quick for you. You're going to have that recording. You can take as many notes as you want. Matt makes fun of me for having notes and paper, a lot of people still like to do that. So if you're that kind of person, you're a good company. So just sit back, let us support you here. That's the main thing. As Matt said, one of our big things is control the controllables. And there's some counterintuitive things about this process that you just don't know if you don't know it. And you're going to know them today because we're going to share this stuff with you. And then we're going to talk about how we can continue to walk alongside you with however it works for you. All right.
Let's
Um,
party.
yeah, party on, Garth. Okay, here we go. So as I know we didn't ask, we ask sometimes if we have groupies or newbies. So I'm sure we have both of you guys on here. So welcome to all. I mean, this is truly our mission, and the end of this is really what matters here: empowering families to shop smarter for college. And being on this presentation, being at boot camp is a huge part of that for you. You're just going to have a big leg up, and it will, as Matt said, I have twins, been through this, and it just doesn't have to be as stressful as it is for most families. So that's what we're here to facilitate. And that's, honestly, full disclosure, I didn't know you were going to get the added benefit of Murph, so he's not on the slide, but he's here. So anyway, so everybody got an email to do this, to set up their free MyCap account. We are strongly encouraging you to, when you went in there, you'll see it says, do you want to subscribe to premium? It's $4.99, no tax. That's the cost. No contract. You sign up. Guys, it's less than my matcha latte. Just give it a month, get in there, see what you can learn, see how it helps your family really dial in, and the stress I'm talking about, alleviate some of that stress, because you start to see all this information in one place, and you're going to really see it today, how there's so many nuances that we're going to show you, and we have it all baked in here. So really, really encourage you to do that. A lot of you already have, so that's awesome, but if you haven't, go ahead and do that. Matt can put the link in
Yeah,
the chat. You probably already did.
I just put the link in there, Peggy, and I'll double down on your point there. Guys, this is your cheat code. This is your cheat code for this whole thing. Now, I promise you, after the next, 50 minutes here, you have a really good understanding of how this process works. But you need to know how it's going to work for you specifically, not what the average cost of this school is, not what that average scholarship is here. What are you going to get for financial aided school at this college? What are you going to get for scholarships at this college? How can you figure out exactly which colleges are good fits admissions wise, but also are going to give you a meaningful discount? It's $4.99, like Peg said. If you don't think it's worth $4.99, right, give it a month. If you don't think it's worth $4.99, I will personally refund you out of my own bank account. How's that, Peggy? Not even out of caps. Personally,
Oh my gosh.
this is being recorded
Okay.
too.
And this is being recorded.
This is being
So,
recorded. So how's that for another step further? So mark it down. That's time stamped. Um, but do it right now, guys. Do it right now, because as we're talking here and you hear us talk about specific colleges, you can see actually what they cost to you, how generous or not they are. Put your kids' schools in there, but go to that link. Do it right now as we're getting started here. All right, Peggy, let's cook.
all right, here we go. All right. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts of financial aid. So the biggest takeaway, and this is one of these counterintuitive things that I mentioned in my intro, is all of these colleges are discounting. We all know college is so expensive. If you're not aware, I hate to tell you, but the most expensive schools are over 100,000 a year. But it doesn't really matter because they're all discounting their price. It's just a matter of how they're doing it. And that's the key thing that you have to understand for your family and for your student. With my two kids, different discounts. So it's not even the same within a family. If you have twins or you have a junior and a senior, you're going to notice it's not going to be the same per kid. And it's not the same per school. These are all the nuances that we want to support you on. So there's this thing called the cost of attendance, that we like to call it the sticker price, right? That's tuition and fees, room and board, books, travel, personal expenses. We have no control over that amount, and it's been going up for decades, right? But again, irrelevant. Let's talk about how these schools are discounting. There's three different buckets, as you can see on the slide. So need-based grants, that, as the name hints to, that's free money. We call them grants. Sometimes the colleges call them scholarships, but it's based on your financial need. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Like, if you have your account set up, hopefully you're looking at it on another screen, not toggling back and forth so you don't miss anything that we're talking about. But you can see your two SAIs up there. Um, that's the number that gets calculated in this situation. That's why you're submitting financial aid forms. You may or may not have need. It's based around those numbers. So if you have need, the colleges could come in and give you what we call their institutional grants. You can also get it from the federal government, and you can also get it from your state. But by and large, most of it, percentage wise, comes from the colleges. So if you fall in that bucket, it's based on your finances, two different financial aid forms that we're going to cover. So there's a lot of complexities there about how that need gets created. You'll see all the time certain schools like the Ivies meet 100% in need. That's great. But if you don't know what your need is at that school, it's meaningless to you. The middle bucket, merit-based scholarship. So this is also free money, but it has nothing to do with your finances. It's all about your child. It's grades and test scores typically, but it can also be leadership, talents, music, sports, whatever that college decides to create for their merit-based scholarships. There could be money given to them, part of their endowment where they're supposed to give it to a certain kind of student. So that can differ from school to school. So you want to maximize these two buckets because this is the free stuff that you don't have to pay back or work for. This third bucket is the bucket you're taking out loans. We're at CAP, we're not against loans. A reasonable amount of debt that you know what you're signing up for and you know you can repay it is our talk track there. And then work study is a need-based program through the federal government. Your child gets a job, they work, and you decide how you're going to use that paycheck toward the cost of college, or if you're going to at all. So again, you have to repay it or you have to work. The goal is to maximize the first two buckets and to understand through our software, quite frankly, what you're going to get from different schools based on your unique family situation. So on the need-based front, how does this work? You take the sticker price and they subtract this SAI, student aid index, also called an expected family contribution by some schools that I'm sure are on your kids' lists. So I want you to be familiar with that terminology. It still falls in the same place here. They take the difference and that's your need. The SAI/EFC, that doesn't mean that's what you're going to pay for college. Very often, you're going to be expected to pay more than that. So keep that in mind. But say a school costs 80,000 and you have an SAI of 40, then you have 40,000 of need. If that was across a group of schools, again, it doesn't mean that school is going to come in and say, okay, Keough family, here's your $40,000 grant. You pay 40, you're good to go. If only it could be that simple. It's just not. But you need to submit your financial aid forms to get this number. So the next question you should be thinking is, all right, I get that, Peg. So what's an SAI? How is it calculated? So let's get in the weeds on this. I'm going to spend some time here. So there's two main buckets for the SAI calculation. There's assets and there's income. So let's talk about the assets first. Big takeaway here, and this is a mistake that people that don't understand the system will make quite often on financial aid forms. Retirement assets are not included in this equation. So that means 401ks, 403bs, Roth IRAs, pensions, those are all retirement accounts. So you are not disclosing them on the FAFSA, the main financial aid form that I'll talk about in a few minutes. And it's not part of this calculation for the colleges. So if you've been a good saver, that's great. You're not putting that on the form, on the FAFSA. All your other assets, including real estate or certain types of real estate at different schools, are fair game. So let's just focus on the assets first, and then we'll talk about real estate. So stocks, bonds, checking and savings, CDs, anything like that that's not in a retirement account is fair game, along with college savings accounts. So if you've been fortunate enough to be able to scroll some money aside in a 529, that's a very typical one. It could be a Coverdale, it could be a prepaid tuition plan. I used to live outside of Seattle. We called it our GET, the Guaranteed Education Tuition Plan. All of those fall under the college savings plan umbrella with the IRS. The way this works is if you, as the parent, are the owner of that account and your child's the beneficiary, which is what we usually see. I've never seen a child as the owner. I'll talk a minute. Sometimes you'll have different owners, but say the parent, you're married or you're divorced, one parent is the owner. It is the parent's asset. And the reason why I'm stressing that is in this equation, at kids assets, student assets are looked at as a much higher percentage, 20 or 25%, whereas parent assets are at most a little shy of 6% if the colleges are following their formula, which is sometimes an if. But big, you can see though, big difference. So this is another mistake that people tend to make, and it's logical. Well, I'm saving that for my child. It's their money. It's not. I won't bore you with why. You are still the owner of that, so it's yours. If grandma or grandpa or anybody outside of the household has a 529, it's not even included because they're not in the household. It's just the biological parents, um, or well, I won't say by because it depends if people are married, yada yada. But it's the parents, right? If they're the owners, your frat buddy who made billions, as a serial entrepreneur, he won't be on it. Okay. On the FAFSA, which is the main form that most schools are only going to require, you're only going to put the balance for the person, your child that is going to college. So in my case, two kids, Shannon and Brennan. On Brennan's, I only put his 529 balance. On Shannon's FAFSA, I only put hers. It's not combined. That's a biggie because if you have been able to save a sizable amount, you don't want to inflate your assets incorrectly because then your SAI will go up. So keep that in mind. Jointly held accounts, which is super common. As a parent, you've got a checking account or whatever, and you're on it and your child's on it. That's your asset if you're on it. Okay. So keep that in mind. And then it's the third bullet down under assets here. UGMAs/UTMAs. These are custodial accounts, and they used to be the only name in the game to save money in a minor's name. These are not like 529s, even though you might be the custodian of that account and your child is the beneficiary. It is their asset. It's because it's actually when you create an UGMA or an UMA, you are gifting that money. It's an irrevocable gift to your child. So that could be punitive at 20 or 25%. There are strategies to move that out. I can't tell you today to the masses, hey, everyone should do this. We need to understand your situation to be able to support you on that. But I'm planting the seed. Depending on your situation, there might be a way to get that $100,000 UTMA that grandma started into a different account or way to lower that so it won't impact your SAI as much. So just jot that down if that's you, I'm a financial planner by background. That's a planning opportunity. Okay. Real estate, all secondary real estate, meaning not the house you live in. If you're renting, it's irrelevant. But if you own your home and maybe the bank owns your home some and you own it or you own it free and clear, I'm not talking about your primary home. I'll talk about that in a minute. But any other real estate you have, a second home. I used to own vacant land that my husband would hunt on. Anything else that's secondary, that's fair game. And they look at your equity, which is market value of your property minus any debt. If you have a main mortgage, if you have a home equity line of credit, whatever that is, that's your equity. And the main takeaway, and this is something we help families with one-on-one all the time, is valuing their real estate. Not lying, but valuing it as low as defensible. Because the higher that value goes, the more assets you're going to have in the equation. And there's literally some schools that will look at that and say that whatever that equity is, say it's 300 grand, that's a checking account that mom and dad can tap. You might not agree with it, but that's how they look at it when they're doing the SAI. Your primary home, and we're going to get into this and show you exact examples, but it is off the table for most colleges. There are a group of about 250, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, that will look at the home that you live in. That's a huge planning opportunity. Say you have a home that's worth 2 million bucks and you own it free and clear. That's awesome. It's not awesome when SAIs are calculated if a college looks at that. So that planting that seed too, that's another planning opportunity. A lot of schools won't look at it, and then some schools that are even in the bucket that will look at it don't, because that's their philosophy, and we have that all baked into the software. Last thing with assets, they are literally the day you hit submit is the value. So if you are a crazy person like me and you can look at your assets, close a business every day, you could literally go up there, and if the market's having a bad week, you put a lower amount there. Very real time. The good thing about that is you still have planning time. You understand this. In August, you could liquidate some of your assets if you're going to spend them on certain things. We can help you with this to get money out of there potentially, that you're going to spend anyways. There's just all these different things that we come across with families when they're sitting on a chunk of money. Maybe there's things that they need to do with it anyway. So we can help you with that. Now, let's talk about income now. Income is the flip side. It's not a real-time view. It's a 2-year look back, and we call that prior year. President Obama put this into place, so it's been a while. So I know I saw 26, I touched 27. I might have seen a couple younger classes in there, but for 26s, those forms are going to be live to the masses October 1. Everything is going to be about the 2024 tax year. It's already gone, obviously. You can't go back and say, I want that to be lower. It is what it is, but you know it for now. I know there were some 27s. You are, we call it the base year. You are in your base year for your kid. So don't create income that is not necessary. Capital gains, Murph, Matt and I see this all the time. And then you've got to talk to the college and try and appeal it out. So keep that in mind. It's a 2-year look back. You're going to submit every year, and then it's the subsequent year. It's the biggest driver. Parental income is by far the biggest driver. It's mostly based on your adjusted gross income. There's a few other things that can get added in. Student income is also included, just like student assets. But you can see on the slide here for the federal methodology for the FAFSA only schools, kids can make over a little bit over 11.5, and it's a wash. And most kids, my son had a job all year and worked full time this summer, and he didn't hit this amount, right? So for most kids, it doesn't move the needle. If you have a child who's making some nice money through some way, that's great, but it will affect the formula. So keep that in mind. One thing I will drop here, and Matt's going to talk about this toward the end. If you're sitting there saying, "Oh my gosh, I just lost my job a month ago," and they're going to look at 2024, take a deep breath. You will be appealing. You will be letting the colleges know my income, my financial situation has changed. And that's what Matt was referencing earlier, that Murph is, all of our team is amazing, but Murph had great results this year on appealing. That's a perfect example of when you're going to be appealing. So don't let that stress you out, that first year has to be based on something that's not accurate for you, because it absolutely doesn't. So last thing I want to talk about, you remember that middle bucket, the merit scholarship. So if you're looking at your MyCap account and you're seeing,
Vicky, let me break in,
yeah,
pal.
yeah, go
Let me
ahead. Go ahead.
catch your breath, and you can go on that last slide here, or the previous slide rather. So a couple of repeat questions are usual suspects. So the and so to clarify, the home that you live in, okay, and again, we're going to actually look at some case studies in just a second here, and we'll look at some particular colleges in real time. But the home that you live in, not every college is going to consider that, quote unquote, against you. Okay. Some of them are, right? I love picking on Boston College in our backyard, obviously an amazing college, but they look at if any equity, if your home's worth 600 and you owe 200, they think that's a $400,000 checking account. Then you have other colleges that of course, we'll look at none of it. And then there's kind of an in between bucket. Well, yes, they'll look at some of the equity that you have in your home, but only a percentage of it. And that percentage is tied to your income. So I'm telling you more than you need to know here, right? We've done all that homework for you to say, okay, well, what schools look at home equity and how much, right? Among other things. But if you're a homeowner, you need to pay really close attention to that because for most of us will have a huge impact on how affordable or not a college is. But I wanted to make sure I clarify that, and then double down on the point that, again, and there was actually a specific question asked here around, well, what if my student has a certain amount of money in their checking account or their savings account, but I'm on that with very few exceptions, right? Just about all these colleges will put way more emphasis on any money in the student's name. Sometimes it's as much as 25%. We've seen, again, this isn't the norm, but up to 50%. They're looking at saying half of this money, or at least a quarter of this money, should come to us, where that percentage is way less for parents. So, to the extent that we can control, and that's the name of the game, right? What can we control here? By the time we submit these financial aid applications for you 2026 folks, in 6 weeks, less than that, 5.5 weeks, we want as little money as possible in the student's name, right? To the extent that we can control. And if we both have our name on that account, we want to present it as a student's account because again, it can really, even if it's not a huge amount, have a swing on your financial aid eligibility. So we got a couple questions around that, and just want to make sure I clarified there. But go ahead, Peggy.
Okay, so now let's talk about if you're looking at your MyCap account, you're seeing pretty big numbers, and you've dialed in your profile in our software on those two SAIs on your dashboard. Um, let's make the assumption I'm not eligible for need-based aid, Peg, anywhere, right? If we make that assumption, that doesn't mean discounts are off the table. It just means that the merit scholarships are going to be the name of the game for your family. And so there's a few things you need to understand about these. Um, First thing, and we're going to talk about financial aid forms in a few minutes, but every year since I've been doing this for well over a decade, and I have parents that are like, Peg, I'm not filling out the forms. I'm not going to get any need based aid. I'm not sharing my information. It's a waste of time. Some colleges, NYU being one of them, which is very popular, will require the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and we're going to touch on those in a minute, to be eligible for merit scholarships. It doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. So you could definitely be leaving money on the table if you don't submit these forms. That's one reason among many to submit these forms. The other thing to keep in mind about merit scholarships is there's a bunch of colleges 100 plus in this country that don't give merit scholarships. It's not part of what we like to call their business plan. These guys are all businesses. They're nonprofits, but don't kid yourself. They're looking at yields and revenue just like corporations do, and that's just not part of their business plan. The Ivies, NESCAC that's on here. If you're in Washington, you might be like, what the hell is that? That's Bowdoin, Williams, all those kind of schools that are up by Matt, right? Stanford, MIT, these schools, they're great at meeting need, but they don't offer merit scholarships. So that's not a bad thing. It's just something you need to realize. That's another planning opportunity. If you have a child who is like great grades and test scores and done all this crazy, wonderful stuff, there's tons of merit money out there for your child, but not at Princeton. It's just not going to happen. So understand that when you're building the list. And we are going to show you that in our software. It's all about what is your net cost at different schools. The last thing I'm going to point out, and this is major planning as you're building the list, and I know what 26 is, a lot of you probably are pretty far down the road in having a list. We'd love to get eyes on it and give you feedback and add to it if you decide to get that support from us. but you're going to want competing colleges when you build the list. Not because you want to go to all those colleges. Matt always uses the example in his neck of the woods, Boston University and Northeastern. So if you have a child who visited BU and loves it, it's a city campus, the T's, I used to work there, the T's going right through it. They love that city feel. Northeastern's very different. Well, I don't really like Northeastern. Well, if they're working with us, we're going to say apply to Northeastern anyways, because down the road, you get into both of these schools, you get merit aid, those merit scholarships from both of those schools. We can appeal based on competing offers. I've done this with the Ivies several times. It's a thing, and it doesn't have to just be the elite private schools. It really doesn't. So that's a very forward thinking deal. That's why it's great to work with people that understand the system. So that's merit scholarships. It could be the name of the game. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can go in and actually show an actual case study here.
Let's dooms it, and I'm gonna put this link in the chat again. Okay, guys, let me tell you again, if you haven't done it already, create your cap account right this second. Okay, the link's in there. If you haven't upgraded, it'll say upgrade up here. Treat yourself to the $5. Again, if you're not happy, I'm gonna treat you. But this is where again, this is your cheat code, okay, to this whole financial aid scholarship world. Okay, now we're going to take our time and go through it. We're going to look at some particular colleges, look at some case study stuff, but let's kind of anchor. This is your home dashboard. So we're asking a couple questions about your income, your assets, your marital status. Are you divorced? Are you separated? Which is a huge variable in all of this, which we will drill down on here. Do you own your home, right, or not? What colleges are you interested in? Then, of course, we want to know about the student, right? GPA, test scores, if they have them. And these are all things that you can edit in real time, right? At any time, you can go up into your profile and say, well, what if I didn't take a bonus this year? Or what if I get that promotion next year? Or what if our ACT goes from a 24 to a 27? How will that impact scholarships and admissions odds, right? So this is your toolbox to play in. But the first thing we need to know, and again, there's no excuse to go another hour without knowing what your family's SAI is. Full stop. Okay. And here's an explanation. Now, to further confuse you, there's actually two types of SAIs. Most colleges use the federal SAI, and that means they only require the FAFSA. Okay, they do not consider home equity, so they don't care whether you live in a $5 million mansion that you own outright or you're renting a studio apartment. It's not a variable in the equation. If you are divorced or separated, they are only looking at one household when calculating your eligibility for need-based financial aid. Okay, those are some of the big kind of differences. Whereas the schools that use the institutional methodology, it's a much smaller percentage of colleges that use this methodology. They also happen to be the most popular colleges, generally speaking. We named a couple in passing already: NYU, Boston University, right, Northeastern. I think Tufts, Bates, Bowdoin, University of Michigan, Baylor, U Chicago, Stanford, MIT. Right, these kind of quote unquote household name type of colleges. Now, most of these consider at least some of your home equity fair game, not all of them. Most of these, if you're divorced or separated, are going to look at both households, both where, both the household that completes the FAFSA and the other household. Okay. Again, not all of them, right? And then you have some that are in the middle. Vanderbilt looks at home equity. They don't look at the non-custodial parent, right? Northwestern or U Chicago. Or what's one that doesn't look at home equity? Well, it doesn't matter. You get my point. Now, I'm telling you more than you need to know, right? This is all baked in here, but you need to have a foundation. Am I eligible for need-based financial aid at all? Now, does that mean that every college is going to use this exact SAI? No, they each have their own business models here. But we want to start here. And of course, this is your budget based on what you tell us. This is something that, again, you can always change. Your working list of colleges will always be on the right side of the screen, including where they fit in terms of your affordability profile, which we'll get into here. But what I want to do is I want to look at some particular colleges. We're going to start there. You're going to look at some particular colleges. And just put in the chat right now. I know you're going to keep your questions in the Q&A, which is a good reminder, guys. If you're asking questions in the chat, we're not looking there. So if you put questions in the chat, copy and paste them and put them in the Q&A. But I want you to throw out some colleges. Maybe your kid's considering going to ED, right? What college do you want to look at? Okay, maybe it's your alma mater. Maybe it's a college you're going to tour. Okay, Wash U and Baylor. Let's look at those two to get started. Okay, but I'm assuming Wash U in St. Louis there. Turns out there's a lot of okay, here we go. So Wash U, right? One of these $100,000 schools, sticker price. You heard Peg say it many times over, and it's one of the biggest points that we have to emphasize every single day because it's so counterintuitive. We do not care about the sticker price. We do not care about the retail rate. We care what you're going to pay, right? So this family, and this is an average, this is a family of four, two kids, 2 years apart, average income, average assets, homeowners. WashU is going to cost them $38,000. These are Massachusetts residents, so they're going to pay the same to go to a $100,000 amazing, private school in the Midwest that they would to pay, which we'll look at in a second, than they would pay to attend their state flagship university in UMass Amherst, right? Now, for any school, I can always add it to the list. I have my, where it fits in our affordability profile right here. But anytime I want to take a closer look at the school, I can. And let's see some of the information that we have in here. And these are kind of the tabs that we break down what we consider to be the most important pieces of information for each school. The acceptance rate, right? Highly selective, clearly, right? Wash U. Here's how, some of the rankings. We're not big fans of rankings, and that's probably putting it delicately, but we just get the information or we get the request from users. So we have it there somewhat reluctantly, quite frankly, because we think they're, if we think they're BS, again, to put it delicately. Here's the size of the school. Here's the average GPA. Here's the average test scores, ACT, and the middle 50% of test scores with ACT and SAT. This is really important too because we can kind of look at, well, most people, and we're going to spend time on this tomorrow with our admissions expert. It's not like we send the test scores everywhere or we don't send them everywhere. It's always school specific. Okay, so this can help inform us. Well, should we send the test scores here or not? Where we really shine, guys, is the financial side of the fence, right? So why is WashU such a good deal? Well, they use the institutional methodology. They meet 100% of need. They meet most of that with grants, i.e., free money. Okay, a lot of these schools get cute and they say we meet 100% of need, but most of that is in loans. That's misleading. I want to know what I'm actually going to pay out of pocket. Don't tell me, give me loans and call it financial aid. So this is what I'm actually going to pay each year. And again, we got to look at this over the course of 4 years, right? And we're going to tell you, do they have the CSS profile? Do they require that in addition to the FAFSA? Do they require non-custodial information if we are divorced or separated? And then we see how stinking competitive merit is there. It's hard enough to get in WashU, right? 12% of those, 3% actually get merit, which basically means it's next to impossible, right? And then again, our affordability profile. What's it going to cost? Here's the sticker price over the course of 4 years. Here's what it's going to cost me versus my budget. This is the dream. That is usually not a reality for most families. Most families have to borrow something. But we have different thresholds for what's which is a successful outcome, right? Where we feel really good about the ROI. And that's all about what's our average starting salary based on the major, based on the school versus how much debt we're going to have to take on. And again, we do that all for you instantaneously, right out of the gates. The second school I saw was Baylor. Again, we can look at, not as much of not a high sticker price, but guess what? It's going to be, almost $20,000 more than, Wash U, which appears to be the more expensive school on the surface. And we can see why, right? We have all the same information for this school. But what I want to show you is this merit scholarship tab, because for every single college in the country, we have every single scholarship that they offer. And we're really good at telling you, well, how much is your kid going to get at this particular school, if anything? And then here's the why. So we can always look at, well, what if our GPA got a little bit better? What if our test score got a little bit better, and we will automatically show you how that would impact scholarship. So any school that you want to see how much it's going to cost your family in the country, put it in here, right? Again, you can only put 3 schools in the free version. Treat yourself to $4.99 so you can put unlimited schools in there. Now we got some questions of what's different between our projections versus schools net price calculators. The biggest difference, full stop, we're accurate, we're reliable. We have a full-time data team that does this every single day to make sure that we are accurate as possible. We have actual financial aid award letters that get uploaded and inform our algorithm again in real time. So colleges will tell you, they'll be the first to tell you our net price calculator is not accurate, right? Like basically, we have to have it up there because it's a federal rule in order for us to get federal funding. But Peg and I have actually done entire presentations. We've done research projects on college's net price calculator. You can check those out on our YouTube channel if you're curious. And also, we have every school all in one place here, right? Okay, so again, put all your top colleges in there right now and see what they're going to cost you, right? For better or for worse. Now, I want to show you, and this is going to be relevant to when we have Joe on here tomorrow as well as today, how to use this platform to make sure that you are applying to schools that are within your affordability profile. So there's dozens of admissions filters we can put in here, but let's just choose a couple. So let's just say, hey, we know we want to go the 4-year traditional route. We know we're more comfortable probably at a smaller school. We don't want to go too far away from home, and maybe we're thinking about majoring in, uh, whatever, bio. Okay. And again, we can put dozens of filters in here. I put those in there, and then I can just go sort based on which schools are going to be most affordable for my family, right? Or I can say, show me which ones are most, according to my SAI, I'm eligible for need-based financial aid. I want you to sort just based on who's best in need-based financial aid. And we'll automatically rank order the colleges that, again, are checking your admissions boxes and are also, outstanding with need-based financial aid. We can kind of add the relevant ones to our list here. Now, some of you have set up your accounts and you're seeing an SAI of $140,000, which in short means we're not eligible for traditional need-based financial aid. That's okay. I can just go rank order based on who's going to give me the most in merit scholarships, right? And here's, a really expensive school. I'm going to get this huge discount based on how my student, how good they are with merit. Okay. So this is again how, regardless of where we are on this SAI spectrum, we can go put together a great list of schools that are checking all of our admissions boxes, but also the price is going to be right. And this is obviously kind of the name of the game here. So again, this feature in terms of being able to sort is on our premium thing. So again, that is worth more than $5 in itself, in my very firm opinion. But you want to leverage that as you're finalizing your list of colleges for you class 2026, which you guys should be at the finish line of finalizing. And then for you class 2027s, you want to be building that right now.
Okay, so now let's dig in. Matt referenced this, but we just want to kind of solidify it here. So there's two financial aid forms. That's why he was showing you two different SAI estimates on your dashboard. So the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, probably rings a bell, I'm guessing. And I saw a question, I think, in the chat about this. It goes live October 1. If you have a class of 2027 and you're a go-getter, you can't get in there and do it now. Your child does it. You can be with your child when you do it, but it's your student's FAFSA. Goes live to the masses on October 1. I am saying to the masses because it is currently in a beta. So it's in beta 1 right now. At the beginning of September, it goes into beta 2, where you can talk to your school if your kids are already there or when they start. You should be able to get into beta 2 if you want, but then it goes live to everybody October 1. This is the third year of the new FAFSA. It was much better last year. I'm sourcing it's going to be even better this year, and so they're doing that beta again just to look for any tech glitches and get it all dialed in. Already talked about prior year, so that means class of 2026 kids, it's all going to be about 2024. Key thing about the FAFSA, only one parent submits the FAFSA. And there was a question in there, and I said, I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes. So, perk up here. The custodial parent is the parent who provides the most financial support for your child on a year look back from when you're submitting that form. So, not now, not calendar year. So again, another planning opportunity. If you're 50-50, don't be 50-50. Literally spend $1 more on your child if you're the more beneficial person to be submitting the FAFSA. And you can go in our software and play around with the numbers and figure that out. You can hire us and we will help you decide. That could mean tens of thousands of dollars in aid potentially, or no need-based aid. We see this all the time with families, because it's very common that the amount of support is pretty close, and it's not just around child support. It's not as simple as that. So that's a key thing. One biological parent. If you remarried, then that parent is involved. That parent is part of the household, and their information is included. So that needs to be part of the analysis. The FAFSA requires all people that are in it, the student, of course, since it's their FAFSA, and any what we call and the government calls contributors, need to have what's called a federal student aid ID, FSA ID. So you can go ahead and create that now. Make sure you see the URL here. Make sure if you Google create, you'll get to this should be the first thing on your search results. Make sure it's a studentaid.gov account, because you're going to supply your date of birth, your social security number, obviously very, especially the social, very private information that you don't want to get in the hands of nefarious people. So set that up. It there should be, at this point, there should be real time authorization of that. It used to be that it would take several days. Social Security Administration checks that you are who you are. Should be real time right now. So go ahead and get that done and save that information, because you're going to need it every year. Every school is going to require you to submit that FAFSA every year. So remember, if you're divorced and it's, say, mom is the custodial parent, you do your work and you know that based on the definition I shared, dad isn't getting an FSA ID. He doesn't need to. He's not part of the FAFSA in a divorce situation. There's some nuances there. If you're married, usually only one parent gets it, but it depends how you file your taxes. So there are some things there that we can help you with, as far as who the contributors are for different families. That's how the FAFSA works. Now let's talk about this second form that I'm guessing most of you in boot camp today have at least one of these schools your child has on their list, if not way more than one. So these are mostly private schools. UVA, William and Mary, Michigan, UNC Chapel Hill are four of the state schools that are in there. Actually, a few other schools threw their hat in the ring. Vermont, back when the FAFSA was really messed up and they wanted to get data earlier. I don't know if Vermont is still requiring it. We have all that baked in. I don't know if Matt showed that, but it's right in that deep dive. We're going to tell you if you need to do the CSS profile, so you don't have to go search on websites. Key differences here, and Matt touched on this, the home equity in your primary home is going to be asked about on this form. Some schools won't look at it, like Stanford, Columbia, planning opportunity. Even though they require this form, they philosophically don't think parents should be tapping their equity. That could be huge for you versus a BC, like Matt said, where they look at it as a checking account, right? Big difference in their need base, their SAI calculation for you. So you want to keep that in mind. If you are divorced or separated, both parents are going to be submitting profiles, not the same one, two different forms. Go to College Board, which is the nonprofit that administers this form, so that the data is kept private. Whoever the custodial parent is on the FAFSA will be submitting that form with the student. And then there's what we call a non-custodial profile. And that they both get sent if the non-custodial parent is off the grid, it's not safe for the student to be interfacing with that parent. there is a non-custodial waiver. So I'm planting that seed. All is not lost. You can send that to the schools. And then lastly, business owners. There were some questions in there. If you are a business owner with on the FAFSA, if you're a family-owned business with less than 100 full-time employees, the value of your business is not included. Your income is, but not the value. On the CSS profile, they're going to ask about all your businesses and they're going to look at your tax return. So it's a deep dive. They will unturn every stone basically. So that's another planning opportunity, another big difference between a FAFSA only school and a CSS. So Matt, you want to hop back on, or you want to just continue and then hop on?
Let's hit this appeals slide and then I'll hop back on here.
Okay.
So the now we've talked about this a couple times, right? Because it's a relevant part of the whole journey. But our biggest get in the early phases of the process for folks is just to plant the seed that you have this mentality, right? And you've heard Peg say it a few times. We say it all the time because it's true. These are businesses. Let's be very clear. And it's important to have that mindset as a consumer. I promise you the colleges do. Okay. Yes, they're nonprofit entities, but I could also describe them pretty accurately as multi-billion dollar, very successful corporations. Okay. A lot of these. And that's because they're very savvy. Okay. And they know how to run a successful business, right? And people talk about colleges going out of business a lot and things like this, but it's not nearly as common as it is in most other industries, right? If you're not if you don't provide a good product at a fair price, you should go out of business, okay? But as a part of that, just like any other major investment in our lives as consumers, we're always trying to get a better deal. But people are almost have this again, they don't have this general mentality when it comes to investing in higher education. So they don't even think of like, maybe the offer that I got is not necessarily as good as I could do. And it's so important to have that mentality. Now, I will tell you, this is not like getting a better deal on a house or getting a better deal on this, the new car that you want to drive or at the flea market, whatever. Okay, this is its own kind of nuanced language. That's why we can't even use the word negotiate, even though that's exactly what we're doing. Okay, so you have to understand how to speak the language appropriately, because if not, your appeal is dead in the water. For example, if you use the word "I want to negotiate" and get myself a better deal, there's the end of that. It's not happening, right? The colleges are unbelievably sensitive to that word, and again, it's dead in the water just by not using the right nomenclature. So is a method to the madness, and when I say that, it's very school specific. And should we be doing this appeal with financial aid? Should it be admission? Should it be both? Should my student be involved? Should I be involved? Should it be both? And always the question is going to say, well, it depends, right? Even if we're working with the same family, oftentimes we have different strategies based on the particular school, right? And what levers that we want to pull. But the takeaway in this early stages here is we're not going to accept the first offer. So Peggy, if I can share quickly, I'm going to get back on the platform for a second before I spend 5 minutes talking about helping you guys figure out, where you are in the are you a DIYer or not. But it we want to have a solution for every pain point in the process. So we helped you figure out, well, here's exactly what colleges are going to cost you. Here's how to build a list of schools that are, somewhere within our. Hopefully, we have a lot of affordable schools. This is just a good visual here, right? In this really complex process, we want to make sure that as often as possible you have like a color by numbers type of deal, right? And this just helps families figure out, okay, where do these colleges fit in my affordability profile? And we don't want to have our whole list of colleges to the top left corner, right? Highly selective schools where we're going to have to pump the brakes in terms of, is this going to be good ROI? And this is a fantastic list. We're okay if there's at least a couple of schools, in the top left or towards that in this caution quadrant. But we just want to make sure there's diversity, right? And just like when you're applying to your safety schools, your reaches, your targets, we want to have that same thing from a financial profile. So this is probably too good of a school list. Most folks are going to have a couple more in the caution stage. And it's where we can always fool around with our budget in real time. Well, what if I did a little more cash flow? What if, I pulled a little bit more from my mutual fund, or what if, I bit off more than I could chew and this should be a lot less, right? How's that going to change my affordability profile? Um, as soon as you tell us which colleges you're applying to, we're going to tell you here's who needs the FAFSA, here's who needs the CSS profile, here's who needs the IDOC. These guys require the non-custodial form or not. And then here's all the due dates, of course, right? If you invested that $5 in the premium version, you're going to get line by line instructions by the fairy godmother herself. And if you can't tell already, excellent bedside manner, in addition to knowing what she's talking about here, through both the FAFSA and the CSS profile, right? And then when you get accepted, you're going to upload the offers. We're gonna translate that offer, but we're going to tell you, did you get a good deal? Right? How likely is it that you can appeal and get more money from a Boston College or an Amherst or a Dickinson, right? Or whatever colleges that you upload their awards. We're going to tell you that, right? Boston College, as part of their business model, on average, under award families $10,000 less in need-based financial aid. What consumer is going to know that? I'll tell you, exactly zero, right? That's our job, to play watchdog there and tell you here's how and why you should go back to Boston College, and this is how much, more you can ask for. So again, that's just kind of a teaser on the on what the platform can do. Make the $5 investment. Don't overthink that one. But I want to talk to the people that are, you just know you need one-on-one help, right? What we call our wake me up when it's over packages. There's some urgency here because for the class 2026, we're just about closed. I think we have seven left. Seven left. I know we will close by the end of the day tomorrow. So that's why there's some urgency there, because obviously we are full into the process, towards the finish line of the process for 2026. So you have a little bit more time if you're 27s, but for 26, it's somewhat now or never in terms of engaging with us. So I want to talk about, and I'll pop this link in the chat here. I'm just going to kind of walk you through, and again, for those DIYers, stick around still, because um, we're going to talk about you too. Obviously, you can, if you're not a DIYer, you know who you are. But you can work with an expert one-on-one through financial aid, one-on-one through admissions, or one-on-one for both. Okay. Now, for financial aid, we complete all your financial aid applications. We do the FAFSA, we do the CSS profile, we do the non-custodial. We tell you which household should complete the FAFSA if we're divorced or separated. We tell you here's how to value business, here's how to value your home, here's what colleges compete with one another. We appeal directly with the colleges to get a better deal, right? We have an organic network and just tons of experience, and that is something that we are just incredibly good at, quite frankly. We tell you how to pay the bill, well, when to use what resources. If I need to take a loan, should it be my kid? Should it be the parent? Should it be both? Should we borrow through the federal government versus private, right? Et cetera. Um, on average, right, we save families. This was before our class 2025, so this number went up like a hockey stick. It's over, what is it, like 109,000 now, or
Oh, it's around 123.
123,000. So this was last year, right? So it's a little outdated, but we got better in terms of the ROI that we're able to demonstrate to families. So so you work with somebody one-on-one from now until your kid moves into the dorm. Um, if you want to do that, sign up right through here today and use coupon code. What is it? Boot 500 for 500 off.
500. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Boot 500 for 500 off. Don't overthink that one again, especially if you're 2026. That's this is the time. Admissions, it's a similar deal. And I describe the financial aid, our financial aid wake me up when it's over service as we're really grabbing the wheel for the parent or the parents. Whereas our admissions one-on-one service is really, this is our admissions expert grabbing the wheel with your student. Okay, so you're not managing deadlines, you're not correcting the essay, you're not saying, hey, here's what are going to be good fits for you. You're not showing them how to develop relationships with these admissions counselors. You're not, it gets so nuanced where it matters the order in which you list your activities on the Common App, and you have to get that right. Right. So if you don't feel like you don't necessarily know what that should be as a parent, that's where you would want to think about this, right? And again, our data is very compelling, right? You're just more likely to get into your top choice. Okay. Um, this one, our hours are capped. They're capped at 20 hours of one-on-one support from our admissions expert. Of course, you can go a la carte beyond that, but for class 2026, that's going to be that's going to get you across the finish line. Okay, and then of course, there are families that are like, yeah, I need help with the financial aid. I would like my student to have some help with the admissions. I want both. So when you do that, we automatically, when you do that combination, you get $500 off if you book today. You get the additional 500 off as part of the boot camp discount. So again, if you know that this is you, sign up today so we can guarantee that we can service you and take care of you. If you're somebody that's like, look, this sounds great, but I'm not ready to take the leap, you can book some time to talk with us one-on-one. We don't have a ton of time slots, and I'll put left
I
here.
got it in there.
Okay. And there's not a guarantee that we can service you, but totally understand if that's too big of a leap. If you just want to talk to Murph, for example, or one of our other experts and say like, hey, is this the right fit for me? You can certainly do that. Okay. Now, for those of you that are like, I'm a DIYer, right? I know that's just I don't outsource anything. I change my own oil. I'm the one that does the new backsplash in the kitchen. You know who you are. That's where you get in and invest the $4.99, right, with us, so we can be your kind of one-to-many resource, and do that today, right? Do that today. Don't overthink that. In addition to the software, we have what we call office hours every other week. We have a whole private scholarship database baked into the platform here. Again, if you are a premium member here. This stuff is locked for kind of non-premium members. But hopefully that gives you a good idea, right? DIYers, you know who you are. And invest the $4.99 for you and for your kid. You're going to have a better end result, full stop. If you don't if you really want to get that big time ROI and make sure that you nail this for you and your kid, make the investment, right, to work with us one-on-one. And that's what we're really, really good at. We're the best in the world in it, quite frankly. So, and I can say that with a lot of confidence. I'm biased, but that is data driven as well. So, yeah, that's it for today. Tomorrow, make sure that you're here. Make sure that you're here. It's going to increase your odds of winning that scholarship at the end of tomorrow, if you can make it live. Again, if you're even thinking about the comprehensive services, make sure you log on today, and then you can talk to us. And if you have buyer's remorse, you get a full refund, but at least make sure that you get in there. And again, if you're just not sure, book some time with us. Let's talk one-on-one, and we can help you. But come back tomorrow, because the admissions piece is really, really good. Joe Kay, our admissions expert colleague, he's been doing this forever. He's I think a gifted speaker, but more so than that is just his subject matter expertise is very, very good. So, Murph, Peggy, anything to add before we jump for day one here?
I would just say, Matt went through the different ways we can support you really in a thorough way. So stay engaged. Don't do what I call drift through this. It'll create a lot of stress. It'll be a lot more expensive, stress within a marriage, stress with your child. It's just not necessary. So let us support you however it is. We've got all the different ways that we can be a part of this journey. So let us do it.
100%. Thank you, Murph. Thank you, Peggy. And Peggy, we'll see you tomorrow. Murph Man's going to be talking to those folks that want to one-on-one. So we'll let him do that tomorrow, and we'll have Joe K play here in his place. So thanks everybody, and show up
See you
for
tomorrow.
Bye, bye.